Now it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Pat Ball. Reverend Pat Ball has many years of experience as a unity minister in Canada and in serving our worldwide unity movement. From her home base in southern Ontario, she served unity ministries throughout Canada as their regional representative and church consultant. Her ministry, Unity Ministry in Motion, helps to nurture and coach seeds of unity in Canada into fruition. She and Gracie, her little pup who's present today, are good friends to Unity of Buffalo. Wherever Reverend Pat goes, Gracie goes also, and together they sow many seeds of unconditional love. We welcome Reverend Pat back to the platform here to deliver her message entitled, "How Good is Your Soil?"
Thank you so much. You know, I just love coming to Buffalo because I think Google Maps brings me a different way every time to get from the bridge to here. So I get a tour of Buffalo. You guys have such beautiful, big houses. They're huge, and they've been around for a long time, so some of them aren't in that good a shape. But they're just the 3 stories and close together. You can tell that Buffalo has been a very prosperous city. It's really wonderful. So how would you describe something that only you had experienced and you were trying to let other people know what it was like? Can you imagine how frustrating that would be? I say sometimes it's like trying to describe blue to a blind person. How can you do that? It's just almost impossible. Well, it is impossible, really, because blue doesn't have a characteristic that you can feel. Jesus probably felt that frustration frequently. And he knew that the kingdom of heaven was within us, but he was trying to get his disciples and the people that he spoke to understand it. And they just didn't get it. And for the most part, a lot of us don't either. Because perception is so important in our lives. It's something that we have created, what we perceive now, what we see, and we don't see with clear eyes. We have filters in front of our eyes that have been put there, that we have gradually put on, allowed to be put on us with what's happened to us, with how we were brought up, what we've done, the situations we've been through. That affects how we see the world around us. And today, we're going to be talking about a parable that you've heard many, many times. But I'm hoping that you will see it from a different viewpoint. That where you were before when you heard it was perhaps here, and now because you've been coming to Unity for so many years, your consciousness is up here. And although it seems like it's the same one, life is like a spiral. And so things come around again. And there we are at a different place. We see it in a different way. In Unity, we define a parable as, okay, it's not working. I turned it on. Push the button. There we go. A parable is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. Do you like that definition? It's kind of, because the whole point is that it's about using things that people know, which Jesus did very well. He talked about fishing, he talked about, soil, he talked about coins, he talked about all kinds of things that people in that day could relate to. And then he was trying to tell people the truth, the capital T truth, that the kingdom of heaven is within them right now, and that they are the ones that are blocking it from being manifested in their life, which is something that happens with all of us. These parables are just as direct and applicable today as they were over 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years ago. Well, Jesus was supposed to be 30, so that would have been in 2030, we can say 2,000 years ago, but not yet. But my hope is that you will hear it in a new way today. So the parable that we're going to look at today is the sower. And I know you all know it probably by heart. It's the one parable that was talked about, that was described in 3 of the 4 Gospels. The 3 that copied from each other, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John was kind of over here by himself, doing his own thing. But the 3 of them, and they don't know who started first. They think that perhaps Mark was one of the original writers, but there were other people too, like now Q, which is German for a person, which is kind of funny because it's not a name at all. And they don't really know who Mark was. He was not the Mark that was the disciple of Jesus. They just put that name on because everybody knew who Mark was. And so they said, oh, Mark wrote this. Oh, well, then I better pay attention, you know. But we really don't know. So we're going to look at the parable as it's written in Mark because it's different. There's a part that's different about it that is not in Matthew and Luke. And the part that's different is after Jesus tells the story, it's reported that he says, okay, now I'm telling you guys, this is a parable, so that because I know that you guys, the 12, you know, and his close people would understand it. People out there don't understand it. They think it's a nice story. They're just coming here to be entertained, to see me heal people, blah, blah, blah. But you know why I'm saying it. And they're kind of looking at them like, do you know? Do you know what he's talking about? And so apparently, Jesus then contradicts himself and goes on to tell them what it means, which is so funny because Bible scholars think that this example of him actually telling the disciples what the metaphysics was of the parable was maybe added later, that some teacher had put it in the margin of one of the copies they were using, because this was before the Gutenberg press, so everything was handwritten. And you know what happens when you copy stuff, and then somebody put it into the main body of Mark, and there it stayed. So who knows whether it was supposed to be there or not. So I'm going to read it to you, just in case you've forgotten. All right. Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on the rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. Other seed fell into good soil and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, let anyone with ears to hear listen. I like that last part, don't you? Let anybody, whoops, turned it off. Okay. Let anyone with ears to hear listen. In other words, pay attention. Pay attention. And they're going, yeah, okay. So, of course, we know Jesus wasn't talking about our physical ears. He was talking about our spiritual ears. Listen to what I'm telling you. In Unity, of course, our approach to the Bible is metaphysical. You guys have, I'm sure, are there any newcomers here today? No, so maybe there are online. So I'm talking to the choir here. You know what metaphysics is. You've studied it for many years. It means that the meaning that is written on the page, there's a much deeper meaning to it than just that. And so it's up to us to look at how it applies to us in particular. So Jesus, I think this is in the Bible, in the Mark, that Jesus said the sower is God, the seed is truth. Whoops, I didn't want that to go so fast. Oh, all right, you're getting all three at once. The sower is God, the seed is truth, and divine ideas and principle and potential, whatever it is that is being sowed. Now, the thing is that the seed does not change. Truth is truth. Principle is principle. The divine potential is all there. What changes is where it lands, right? It's the soil. And so there's different kinds of soil that represent different states of mind. So that's why one person can take an idea and run with it, and the other person hears the same idea and is like totally tormented by it, shattered by it. But if we've been disappointed or we've been hurt, then it depends on what is going on in our mind as to how we receive the word, the idea. Because we believe we live in a field of all possibilities. And what our mind is. So the thing is, I just want you to know that there's some good news and some bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The bad news first? Okay. The bad news is that all these states of mind, all these 4 categories are in each one of us. You can't just point a finger because, we're all set. We say, oh, yeah, I know. That's my partner. That's my boss. That's my neighbor. That's my coworker. They're just terrible people, and this is what they're doing, and this is how they are because they just don't know any better. But it means that is also the good news. The good news is that they're in all of us. And so we can decide which one we want it to be. Irving Seal, a science of mind minister, there I go again, sorry, said, you and you alone determine what the outside world will do with you. That's kind of scary, isn't it? You and you alone determine what emotional responses you will make to the sights and sounds of your environment. When I came into Unity, I said, what? Me? You make me angry. No, actually you don't, Pat. No, I don't. You choose to be angry. That is the problem. And so because we walk in a world of our own creation. The world we see is the world we are. Drats. But, these 4 states of mind, we can decide which one we are. So we're going to look at each one of them and see how they show up in our world. Because the 4 kinds of soil represent 4 kinds of minds. The first one fell on the hardened path. And when those ideas fall on us, our minds are closed. Do not tell me this. I don't want to hear it. And how did our mind get that way? Through years of hurt, of being pounded down. So many things have come into our minds, and we've thought, there's no way that I want to hear about this. Don't talk to me. We all know people like this. But have you ever been like this? When I first came into Unity, this is how I was about God. Like, don't talk to me about God. I don't want to hear about God. I'm thinking, why are you here, Pat? Like, this is exactly what this is about. But I was very critical. I was just determined. And it was almost as though I'd not only hardened the path, I'd paved over it. The problem is that, sure, the good ideas can't get in, and I won't let bad ideas get in, and they won't hurt me. But then the other stuff, it works the other way. The good stuff can't get out. I can't experience joy or happiness or pleasure because I'm so busy making sure that nothing gets through that path. Well, yeah. Doesn't it really work very well? I've had an expectation that people are going to if I'm nice to you, you're going to be nice to me, and that doesn't always happen. I've got a script for people If I say this is how I expect you're going to answer. And they say to me, Pat, I've got my own script. Heck with your script. You follow my script. No. It's all about control, power and control. And we are controlling that, our minds. And we're alive. Yeah. But just present the idea with that mind with a positive idea, and we'll pick it apart. Say, well, I don't think so. No, that's not true. And we just have, we have to be willing to look at ourselves and ask, if I become so cynical, so jaded, so closed-minded that I can't even consider the possibility that there may be something good in what I'm hearing? No. But it doesn't matter how many great ideas are thrown into our consciousness with this setup. Yeah, the birds are going to come and get them and pick them and fly away. The next soil is the rocky soil. Now, because the soil was shallow, it couldn't take good root, and it soon died. This is the kind of mind that I'm in when something sounds really good and I go gung-ho on racing off madly to do this, and it's like, but then there's nothing to it, and I think, I used to be like that about meditation. Yes, I'm going to meditate every day, for 20 minutes, and that started out really well. And every day I was meditating, and then, I had something came up, I slept in or something and missed that day. Okay, fine, well, I'll do it. Or else I get up and I've got to do something right away. Well, I'll do it later. Well, later never comes. And I just peter out, and and that's the end of the meditation time. It's just, but the point is that we can remove the rocks. The rocks can move. There's good soil under those rocks. My roots just didn't get a chance to get there. So what I've been doing is, I see if something comes up that I think this is a rock, I'm going to take it off my mind and throw it away. What kind of rocks do we have? It's like resentments, fear, unforgiveness, those kinds of things. I'm in a 12-step program. I don't know if any of you are. And one of the things that we talk about is resentments. And when I sponsor people that are in the 12-step program with me, and I say, okay, they have to make a list of the resentments. They might have 25. Some people have 60. I mean, you can have a lot of resentments if you've never cleaned them up before. But what I do is I say, you're going to take a potato and put it in a bag for every resentment you've got. You're going to carry that around with you all day. And, it's quite amazing how fast they get rid of the resentments. Yeah. But it's things that we just allow to block us. Again, it's not quite as hard as the pavement, but there's still a lot of block. And we jump into relationships, and that's why in Unity, we don't encourage people that have come, like just beginning, to become members. We want them to be around for a while. We want you to know about what Unity's about. And so I think you guys have a class, don't you, that you take before membership? Yeah, it's really good. It takes time for us to prepare the soil of our minds, to take out these rocks, to be ready to understand what is the kingdom of heaven. And I think Jesus in this description of the rocks is trying to bring in commitment, the C word. If just to kind of do it for a while won't produce the kind of results that you want. You need to do it. We need to put over time consistently practicing this new way of thinking, of being. Now, some seeds fell upon the thorns and were choked out. What are the thorns in the world? It's kind of like the things that grow up and they're helter-skelter. We're planting, sure, the seeds are there, the good soil's there, but the good stuff doesn't get a chance to root because it's choked out by all these negative thoughts that we have. It's called an undisciplined mind. To actually sit and realize, what is it that we want to really have present in our lives? What is it? And so we have to make sure, that it's the beliefs that we have, such as, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, or people will always leave me, or it's not my fault. But when we can discipline our minds to focus on the truth, we have the possibilities of a very generous harvest, really. How many of you have heard of Emmett Fox? Have you heard of his golden key? So I just love that. It's a little booklet. You probably have a copy around here somewhere or more. His whole thesis is that when you have a problem, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. And the solution is always God. It's all by whatever name you call God. Your higher power, your spirit, the universe, Alfred, it doesn't matter. It's just a name, whatever. Yeah. So that's how you get rid of the thorns. You just allow them what you focus on expands. We know that. And so you focus on the good stuff that's coming. And at last, the good soil. Oh, yeah. What does that mind look like? For me, it's a mind that says, why not? Instead of, why? We all know people like that. The why not people are much more fun to be around. Oh, yeah, let's go back home to Beamsville a different way. So today I'm going to go home I'm going to just go around New York a little bit and see where else I think I'm in Michigan. No. That's going to be a problem if I think I'm in Michigan. Yeah, no. But it's a mind that's open to recognizing the truth. Jesus called it a childlike mind, not childish. Childlike. That doesn't have a whole lot of stuff that's gathered and accumulated over the years to block out these interesting ideas. How many of you have grandkids? Hands up if you've got grandkids. Do you ever go for a walk with them? When they're like 2 years old, it takes a half an hour to go a block because they're looking at the ants, and then they have to go and look for 4-leaf clovers, and then they have to go, their mind, and they hear a bird, and they look at the birds, and it's just so amazing, so wonderful. It's a soil that is so rich and fertile. And so as grandparents, we especially have to be careful about what we sow. Make sure that it is exactly what we want them to bear fruit. So the thing about the good soil is we have to be willing to get our hands a little dirty. We have to get down in there and dig in, and sure, God scatters the seed. Don't you love the idea that God just scatters it indiscriminately, because he knows that we are all children of God. It's kind of like the sun. The sun doesn't care. What does it say? The sun shines on the just and the unjust. Isn't that a saying? Well, it's the same with principle and with truth. It's available all the time. It doesn't go anywhere. The sun is shining even though it's raining. All you have to do is get in an airplane, go up above the clouds. Oh my goodness, there's the sun. It's always been there. It doesn't go anywhere. I just love that. So the parable of the sower is about potential and knowing that we all have this potential. What matters is where we plant the seeds, what we're doing with the soil that the seeds land on. Make sure that it's good soil, rich, black soil. Thomas Shepard, Tom Shepard, he's a unity minister, and he says, take the time to find good soil. Nourish it with prayer, study, reflective thought. Your bag of seeds will never run out because they're not really in a bag. There's no limit to them. Those which do not grow can teach you something about where not to plant next season, right? Yeah. Or where some work kind of needs to be done on the soil. So whatever it is, the harvest goes on through eternity. Life is unending. Just our bodies change from one to the next, to the next, to the next. But that life is here with us always.